Welcome back. In her new book, No One Left Alone, a story of how community helps us heal, minister, activist, and former Boston news anchor Liz Walker tells us the story of how neighbors support each other in times of grief and trauma. Reverend Walker, thank you for joining us this morning. Good to see you.
Thank you for having me, Karen. It's always a pleasure to be with you.
So many know that you're the former pastor of the Roxbury Presbyterian Church, stepping down a few years ago, but you left behind a grassroots trauma healing program. Tell us how it works and the origin.
The trauma healing program is called Can We Talk? And it was started back a long time ago in 2014 as a way to respond to the violence in our community. Roxbury Presbyterian Church is located right on Warren Street, a very transient community, a wonderful community. But at the time that I started there was a lot of gun violence. I don't live in Boston now, so I'm hoping that has gone down. But at the time, it was horrific. And we wanted to do something not just about the immediacy of the violence, but the residual effect. So we decided to pull together a community gathering that would allow people who had suffered as survivors of the violence, who had lost their relatives, who had lost friends, and who were still dealing with those losses. We decided to let them have a space where they could come and grieve. And in that immediate starting of this program, we learned so much about trauma and grief. And this program now, we have 17 sites around the country, and the book tells the story of why churches need to be more involved in mental health issues. It tells the story of why we haven't been involved in them, and what we're trying to do now.
Reverend Walker, you address the issue of what you call the inequity of grief, and you call it an American story. Can you explain what you mean by that?
To be Black in this country is to have grief as part of your DNA. And it goes back, Karen, I mean, this is not rocket science. It goes back to slavery. It goes back to all the traumas that come, the interpersonal trauma, the generational trauma, the institutional trauma, and all goes back to slavery and how Black folks came to this country. So grief is kind of a part of what we've learned to live with and what we've learned to cope with, or at least try to cope with. It's much more egregious in our communities because of systems, because of poverty, because of inadequate health care access. So all of those issues have compounded to make us a people who are dealing with a lot of trauma and violence, community violence, police violence, all of that adds up to this notion of the inequity of grief. But I would argue now, Karen, that this whole country is dealing with a lot of trauma and grief because there's so many extreme events that happen almost daily.
Now, Reverend Walker, you've cited National Congregation's study that found in response to this, in 2018, nearly half of African American churches were offering some form of mental health support. How has your program contributed to that work, and how does it fit with what you've just outlined for us?
What we're trying to do is to have regular sessions where people can come who learn to get over the stigma that is connected to mental health issues, that learn to understand that we need to talk about our mental health, not just mental illness, but mental health. And so we have opened this up to churches as a way to serve our community. We're not preaching, we're not taking up collection, we're listening to people and allowing people to speak their truth. And there's a lot of pain in a Black truth right now. And we're making this accessible to all churches. And yes, lots of churches are getting involved with mental health, but I'm not sure that those statistics that I quoted when I wrote the book held. I'm not so sure that enough churches are doing it continuously. I think we want to, but we don't know how. And so this program offers churches a way to learn about trauma, to learn about mental health, and to really find a way that we, as people of faith, can contribute to the healing of our community.
And you strongly believe that churches can help a community transfigure trauma.
Absolutely. the institutions that we are and have been since we came to this country. Churches are that stable institution, and no matter what the statistics say about people, not going as much and the new generations not, we're still those solid institutions, and this is a way that we can become even more responsive to the immediate needs of our communities.
Now, earlier in the segment, you mentioned that Can We Talk has expanded beyond the church to, I think you said, 17 sites around the country. In Boston, you have a partnership with YMCAs, right?
YMCA, I don't want to say treat, this is not a therapeutic program, so I'm going to catch myself, but we are working with the YMCA in Roxbury and Dorchester to allow young people to have a place. People just want to be heard. I want to tell you, Karen, I'm having a really bad day. Let me tell you why. I don't want to be judged by that. I don't even want you to fix it sometimes. I just want you to listen to me. So we're doing this for young people. The kids have been very responsive because kids live with a lot these days. Suicide rates are up, bullying rates are up. So this is, again, how we're responding to that.
Reverend Liz Walker, it's always good to see you, and thank you for joining us today. Up next, Womanist Bioethics, how hospitals, churches, and the community can better respond to the healthcare needs of Black women.